You're tuned into Balanced Life. Your Balanced Life podcast with Dr. Chris Byles, a space for people who want more energy, better recovery, calmer days, and long-term health without the hype or confusion.
Here, we talk about nutrition, fitness, stress, habits, hormones, and everyday wellness in a way that feels practical, supportive, and real-life focused. Because supplements aren't the goal, your lifestyle, your strength, and your well-being are. This is about intentional health and a life lived in balance. Welcome to a balanced life. Welcome to a balanced life.
Balanced Life podcast. I am your host, Dr. Chris Byles, here to give you, spend a little time with you, talk about some things. I've been doing for the last few weeks here is I've been trying to lay the foundation, of this whole talk about health and wellness. And that's what I've been doing. So I talked about sleep. We talked about the importance of protein. We talked about hydration. Those are all great things, right? So the foundation, right? So we want to really try and build upon that foundation. And I think that the next topic that we would like to talk about when it comes to your health and wellness, especially gut health, right? Gut health is very important for overall health, right? And wellness. And so we can't have that conversation without talking about fiber. Okay, so today we're actually going to talk about fiber. We're not going to talk about protein. We already talked about protein, right? We're not going to talk about caffeine, creatine. Now we're going to get into some of these topics along the way during our journey together. We're going to get into some of these topics such as the importance of taking creatine, right? Supplementation altogether. It's not all about that, but we are going to talk about it. It's going to probably be part of our framework as well on this thing we were talking about is with health. Okay. So before I forget, let me just go ahead and start off by saying this information is for educational purposes only and does not in any means constitute any type of medical advice whatsoever. If anybody has any medical advice or needs any medical advice at all, go seek your physician immediately. All right. With that being said, let's get right into it. So we're not going to talk about creatine or those things today, but there is going to be a conversation that's going to come up in the future talking about creatine. Okay, we're going to talk about caffeine as well, right? Some people that don't know the history of caffeine when it comes to sports enhancement and sports performance and those type of things, right? And again, we're not going to talk about the newest trend on social media. That's not what we do here anyway. But we are going to talk about fiber, right? Fiber, most people, I can guarantee you right now, most people do not think about fiber, right? Most people do not think about fiber. Oh, you like my dashiki? Most people don't think about fiber. It's not on your minds, right? So when you even look at many of the personal trainers, what have you, and I've been in that category myself, is that you're going to be really trying to give your clients the quickest information. And so sometimes you don't fully inform them, right? Maybe intentionally, unintentionally, but what have you. Stuff like this gets slipped through the cracks. And with personal training, because especially if you don't have specializations on your certifications or attached to your certifications, there's certain things that you're not able to talk about anyway, right? And nutrition is being one of them. But I will say this, fiber is very important, especially as you're increasing the amount of protein in your diet. So one of the things that I would recommend is having some type of fiber with your protein, right? Just so you can help regulate those things. And we're going to talk about a lot of that today, right? But we'll move on to that a little bit later. But however, most people don't ever think about it until something feels off. Maybe you have low energy. You have digestive issues, right? Blood sugar problems, weight gain that feels harder to control, right? If you understand what I'm talking about when you've experienced this type of feeling before on your weight loss journey. certain things is not, they're off, right? Something's not right. But fiber is usually never the first thing people go to. They go to other stuff, right? Well, you need to get this, you need to get that. Fiber, it gets completely missed, right? And especially depending on what type of diet you're on. If you're on a keto diet where it's like no carbs at all, then the amount of fiber you're going to be taking in is not helping that with that. But according to the keto diet, once you hit the stage of ketosis, I guess it's you're regulated. Your bowel movement is regulated anyway. I'm not too sure. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, you can add it to the comment section and we can talk about it a little later. But however, unless you're doing that, mostly you're not getting enough fiber, right? And fiber is going to be so beneficial for long-term health, for gut health, by making sure your bowels are regulated. You know, we could talk, we're adults, right? You know what I'm talking about. Everybody has a movement. You should have a movement. There should be no cases where you're having movements only once or twice a week, right? If that's something that's happening to you, I will go talk to your doctor. But however, it could be your diet. That could be one of the biggest factors of reason why you're not going enough. And I'm not trying to put my business on the streets, but I go sometimes around the 4 to 5 times a day sometimes. It depends. Rarely do I go a day, like even if on my lightest days, might be Saturdays for whatever reasons. But I might go once for the whole day. And then on Sunday, I pick back up like like where I left off. But it's interesting. But so we want to be regular as much as possible. You don't want to be backed up. You want to be regular. And fiber is going to be one of those things that we're needing in our daily lives for our gut health and just making sure that everything is passing the way it should be passing through, right? We don't want to have digestive issues. We don't want to have blood sugar issues. We don't want to have weight gain that's hard to control, right? So fiber, I have to say, is probably the most powerful thing that you can do for your body, especially for long-term health. Okay? So fiber that's the one thing, like when you don't hear about it, you might hear commercials here and there, like on TV, Metamucil, those things, but it's a very small amount of information or, how do I say it? Rally, for lack of a better word, or promotion about fiber, right? And fiber is very important. It really does a lot for your body. Yeah. And then we're going to look at too, on top of that, why are we under consuming it as a nation? This is an entire nation. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it might be worldwide, except for a lot of those countries that, like Italy or what have you, or those countries where they eat fresh food out of the ground. People talk about that. You can go to Italy or go on vacation, still eat pastas and breads and not gain any weight, right? So their food is different over there, 100%. Their food is different than our food, unfortunately. And that's why sometimes things like supplementation, especially from a good source, is needed because, again, we're not getting everything we need from our standard American diet, which has failed everybody miserably, okay? So we're going to look at what the research really shows as well when we talk about this topic. We're going to look at like the British Medical Journal, the BMJ, right? We're going to look at how fiber impacts gut health, metabolism, and disease risk, okay? We're going to look at practical ways to increase fiber without flipping your entire diet upside down or over-consuming. Because let's be realistic. Sometimes you get the nice daily dosage of these recommended RDAs, recommended daily allowances. You have to eat a lot, right? And commercials make those, they kind of show those when there's over-exaggeration of food. But however it can be a lot. And so getting a great source of fiber in other ways, just got to get it. Like, I would not throw away altogether the fruits and the vegetables, great sources of fiber in those things. But I just wouldn't keep it to chance, take it to, I wouldn't risk it to chance, right? Sorry, that you're getting enough. So getting a great supplement, fiber supplement, or even a super green supplement to increase your amount of vegetables in your diet. Those are two ways I would say to effectively increase the amount of fiber you should have in your diet, right? There's ways to look at it. I think the recommended daily allowance is like 30 grams a day. we're getting like 16 grams a day. So it shows you how important fiber is in our daily lives. Okay. Other stuff too, but fiber is right there. So we talk about fiber today. Okay. So let's talk about the basics of fiber. What is fiber? Let's be realistic. Fiber is a carbohydrate. So that's why we're missing a lot of our fiber intake, because the demonization of carbohydrates altogether as a whole, right? Carbohydrates, when people hear carbohydrates, they think it's just like one bad umbrella of foods. And that's not the case, right? We talked about before, when you look at carbohydrates, only look at it as fuel. It's only a fuel source. And, people that are doing longer distance runs, right? Everybody doesn't need the same diet, by the way, either. But I'm just saying, those of us who are out there doing long distance runs or doing activities where you have to use a lot of your body for a long period of time, like aerobic state for the entire time, higher carbs is what you want to do, right? It's going to be your fuel source. It's going to be energy source. It's going to be able to get you through that. There's a thing of carb loading. A lot of athletes that are distance athletes, what have you, or long distance type of stuff. Anyway, they know about carb loading, right? Carb loading is a thing. Not everybody needs it, but again, if you're working out in that manner where you're doing long distance runs, you're doing like the Ironman or something like that, or what is that? The CrossFit Games, those type of things. Yes, carb load, have your carbs, right? But for the natural everyday person, especially if you're not as active as those type of people, if you're under average with your activity level, below average, excuse me, you don't need that much carbs, right? So I would stick to a higher protein diet, but also increasing and focusing on your fiber, right? Fiber is going to be so important. So if I were to say anything, have like a meal with your protein and a salad or greens, super green vegetables, any of that type of stuff to keep your fiber, right? So I would do quite a bit, like I said, but I would do more protein and just increase your fiber just a little bit, or try to get to 30 grams at least a day. That's what I would recommend, right? Nothing crazy. But again, fiber is a type of a carbohydrate. It doesn't have any sugars or starches, right? It doesn't have, but unlike sugars and starches, your body can't digest it, right? And that's exactly why it's so powerful, okay? Now, there are two types of fiber. There's what's called soluble and insoluble. Now, soluble fiber dissolves in water. Now, remember, I want you to notice the difference between the soluble and insoluble. You will hear about those later when we talk about vitamins, right? There's insoluble and insoluble vitamins as well, right? But the soluble fiber, which dissolves in water, it helps lower your cholesterol and controls your blood sugar, okay? Then you have insoluble fiber, which adds bulk to your stool and supports digestive regularity, right? So helping your digestive system, right? Now, but this is where the things get interesting. Fiber doesn't just pass through you, it feeds your gut microbiome, okay? Think about that for a second. Fiber doesn't just pass through you, it feeds your gut microbiome, right? The new thing over this, you've heard about it. They talk about the gut health microbiome, the gut health, right? Fiber is going to help feed those microbiomes. Your gut bacteria ferment fiber and produce compounds called short chain fatty acids. All right. If you don't know about short chain fatty acids, they're great for help reducing inflammation. They improve insulin sensitivity. They support immune function, and they protect the gut lining. Right? So, in other words, fiber doesn't just help with digestion, it helps regulate your entire system. Right? Now, that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful thing. Fiber is that important that it will just regulate their entire system. Okay? So, as you ponder that, and you're probably already thinking, like, okay, how much do I need? How much do I need? Well, like I said, now this is according to the Institute of Medicine. I paraphrase or I quoted earlier, but it's men and women are going to take a different amount of fiber a day. Okay, so according to the Institute of Medicine, they recommend that women should consume about 25 grams per day of fiber. And we're not, like I said, we're not getting nowhere near that amount. And men should consume about 38 grams a day per fiber, 38 grams per day of fiber, excuse me. So women, 25, men, 38. Okay? That's how much fiber you want to take in. Again, if you're eating a lot of protein, if you're eating in the realm of 150 to 180 grams, 200, some of you guys are trying to put on a whole lot of muscle, 300 grams of protein a day, I really recommend highly that you increase the fiber, or you let the fiber increase with it, because it's going to help protect your gut health. Excuse me. It's going to help protect your gut health and other things, right? And it's going to help you pass that weight, that meal through quite nicely. Okay. Now we talk about average reality. Now I mentioned this already before, but average reality, according to the Institute of Health, is that Americans consume less than 15 grams per day. I mentioned that earlier, right? So that's not a small gap, right? That is not a small gap. That's a massive deficiency, and explains a lot why we see so much in our blood sugar spikes and crashes, right? If you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever had something to eat and you like just really amped up, and the next day you're down, you want to take a nap, you want to go to sleep, you had a blood sugar crash, right? You ever wonder why you're constantly hungry? Maybe you're constantly hungry because you're not getting enough fiber in your diet. Again, the insoluble fiber bulks up your stool, right? Why are you having digestive issues? So many people having digestive issues, grabbing over-the-counter medications, right? Instead of just eating a meal or a diet, having a diet packed with high fiber, high protein right off the bat. But that's what happens. So again, we mentioned about it before, the beautiful thing about fiber is going to like satiate you. And again, adding that with the fiber, the beautiful thing about protein is that it's going to satiate you, right? You eat about 40, 50 grams of protein in a meal, especially the types of quality of protein that you're taking in, depending on whether it's fish or beef or chicken, what have you. But you take that in and you combine that with a nice fiber source. Now you got that bulky stool, you're feeling fuller for a longer period of time. That's going to help get you the energy as well, because it is a carbohydrate. It's a win-win situation, especially if you want to like control your metabolic health, right? But also you got to think about, on top of digestive issues, it's going to increase the amount of cardiovascular. It's going to increase the cardiovascular risk. All those different issues out there: cardiovascular disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, all those things. Like heart disease is still the number one killer in the entire world, right? So enough fiber might help kind of bring that down, right? We don't know for sure, right? But if we're already lower on the 15 grams per day, that kind of explains why we're seeing some of these issues that we're seeing. We're not under consuming carbohydrates, but we are under consuming fiber, right? Carbohydrates you could eat as much, way above your amount of carbohydrate intake for the day in one sitting without a problem, right? Have a breakfast, you're done. Forget about it. You have your bacon, you have your pancakes, you have your waffles, you have your donuts, your desserts, the cookies. Boom, done. You done killed it for the day. Go to Starbucks, have one of their coffees or the venti, whatever it's called. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the Starbucks lingo, but you know what I'm saying? Like all that sugar that's in there. So you're going to get your carbs for the day, right? But unfortunately, we see that we're deficient in fiber on a regular basis. We should be taking 38 for men, 25 for women, and we're consuming less than 15 grams per day, right? That explains a lot, right? Fiber slows digestion, stabilizes energy, improves satiety. I mentioned that already, especially if you combine it with a higher protein meal. Boom. Without it, your body is constantly reacting instead of regulating. Fat's important in your life. Fiber is important in your life. Fat is important also. right? But fiber is important in your life. Okay. Now let's talk science. Let's talk science for a brief second. What does the science say? Now, one of the most cited fiber studies was published in the British Medical Journal, the BMJ, right? Now, if you don't know about the BMJ is one of the oldest medical journals in the world. It was established in 1840. It's peer-reviewed, published by British Medical Association, considered gold standard in medical literature. Okay, so gold standard, right? So this isn't just influence, it's science. This is a great tool, right? And there's others. PubMed is another one. I forgot to mention. I was trying to remember that another episode, but PubMed is another one. It's great resources to look for research, right? ACSM is another great resource, but BMJ, a lot of articles, a lot of peer review articles, right? Gold standard. All right, so just when I'm gonna bring out some information that's it came from that publication. And so one of the things they cite is that higher dietary fiber intake is associated with significantly lower risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, colorectal cancer, and all-cause mortality. All cause. Let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in for a second. I just want you to think about that. Right? That's not a supplement. That's not a hack. That's not a detox. Right? That's just fiber. Many people go on detoxes. They want to detox. They want to detox. They want to detox. But still never increases the amount of fiber. Maybe the detox might tell them do this. Drink some cayenne pepper or some lemon juice and some maple syrup and boom, drink that for a couple of days. Right? Anybody lose some weight if you just fast alone. Great benefits from fasting alone without eating anything for 3 days, right? 3 days. 3-day fast, no food, no water. It won't kill you, but your body regulates and restarts over, according to some research, right? You can do that, right? But why would you want to do all that when all you have to do is just adjust what you're doing with your diet, increase your fiber? Sometimes that may be all you need. Increase your fiber, okay? That's why fiber is so important for longevity and public health recommendations worldwide. Okay? Again, fiber plays a massive role in your metabolic health. Right? There was a study that was published in the journals like Nutrients in the Journal of Nutrition. Right? So there's 2 journals. There's one called Nutrients, another one called the Journal of Nutrition. They consistently show that a higher fiber intake improves insulin sensitivity and reduces risk of metabolic disease. Why? Because fiber slows glucose absorption, fiber reduces insulin spikes, fiber improves gut hormone signaling, and fiber enhances satiety. Again, remember we talked about that, feeling fuller for a longer period of time. So if you feel like you've have food, and you're still hungry an hour after you had your food, maybe you didn't take enough fiber in. Maybe you're thirsty. There's reasons behind it. Maybe you didn't have enough protein. There's reasons behind it, right? And so the ideal and goal is to understand that for yourself. One thing I'm never going to do on here and tell you, like, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way you should do it, right? There's ways there's so much research out there that'll promote multiple lifestyles, multiple things, right? And it's, I think, honestly, every one of our job, especially if we want to try and do this health, is to become our own test subjects and see what works for you, right? That you're not going to feel hungry, you're not going to feel overly tired, you're not going to feel stuffed, you're not going to feel any of these different things that comes from crash diets, different. You want to be able to do something you're going to be able to maintain for life, right? You don't want to keep jumping on the bandwagon of different this, that, and the third. If the Mediterranean diet is your thing and you notice that you feel healthy, there's a lot of vegetables and meat in there, right? Actually, what I'm talking about, the fiber and the protein. There's a lot of that going on in there. Maybe not so much bread, but and baklava. Baklava, you guys know something over there with that baklava. But anyway, if it's not so much of that, then knock yourself out. I just personally don't believe. A lot of people argue with me and they'll say I'm wrong. I don't think it's necessary to beat yourself up about any diet that you're on, but you want to make sure it's something that you can maintain. Enjoy your seasonings, those type of things. But fiber is one of those things that if you want to be healthy, right? You want to increase your health. You want to make sure you're adding fiber to your diet. Everything starts with our diets. Again, the saying that you can't outrun a bad diet. Abs are made in the kitchen. Everything starts with a diet, right? And I hate to use that word because the word diet has been, taken and ran through like a cheap, you know what I'm saying, right? For me, honestly, and I'll say this, the fitness industry has been disappointing for me. I love the fitness industry, but there's been a lot of disappointment in this industry because the way the interactions what I see, right? You got, on one hand, you have people that will come out and try and sell you a dream, right? 6 weeks to a 6-pack abs, right? And that's garbage. And what happens is many people that go through that, they'll see that they'll do it, they'll try it, and it doesn't work. And then what happens? They quit, right? Or they find a trainer that's a bad trainer, or like that show that was on Netflix. Well, anyway, the World's Biggest Loser. And if you watch it, just watch the documentary. We won't talk about it here. But anyway, it puts people in a bad light or bad taste with fitness and personal training, and people that are out here really, honestly, trying to help you achieve your goals, right? There's that, and it bothers me. So for me, sometimes when I'm talking about this, I'm trying not to say things as negative toward the fitness industry or anything like that. But I've seen stuff that I don't think I agree with, that they don't agree with at all. And so my goal as a trainer, as somebody that's in this field that I'm in, that like I took the oath basically. It wasn't really an oath, but I got into this because I wanted to help people legitimately. And so how can I help you if I'm doing something or giving you something that is a lie, right? So I tell all my clients straight up, like, look, it's going to be hard work. You got to make sacrifices. There's going to be changes that has to be made, right? And it's not going to be easy. Like having a low fiber diet and never reaching your goals, never knowing what that was, and now hearing about it, and now you want to try it, and now to try to go to steps and steps and try and make it work, right? Easy, like I said, protein and fiber are the two things that it's like, oh my gosh, this is. But once you get it, just keep working at it. Once you get it, you'll be fine. All right. It takes practice. Everything takes practice. Bad habits take practice. It's just easy to do. Good habits take practice. Okay. So fiber is the missing key. I had to get on my tangent. Sorry. But fiber is the missing key, right? Proteins matter. All these things matter. Protein matters. Fat matters. But without fiber, meals digest way too fast. Okay? It slows absorption. It helps with digestion, but it slows it down. Helps break it down. Helps your body get all the nutrients that it needs before it gets and expels what you don't need. Right? That's how it should be looked at. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. But today we are talking about fiber, how important it is. Hope you got something from that first half of this. We're going to come back. I'm going to finish up with the fiber content, and then we're going to be done, let you go. Again, thank you for tuning in to A Balanced Life with your host, Dr. Chris Byles. Have a good one. I'll be right back on the other side of this break.
Every day should feel lighter, and your wellness routine should feel simple. Introducing Fiber Balance from Balanced Life Supplements, a gentle, tasteless fiber blend designed to fit seamlessly into your day. No grit, no flavor, just easy to mix fiber support you can add to water, smoothies, or food. Fiber Balance combines soluble and insoluble fibers to help support healthy digestion and everyday balance for adults and kids. Simple, gentle, effective. Add Fiber Balance to your daily routine and support your body the easy way. Available now at balancelifesups.com. Not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What's up? Welcome back to A Balanced Life. This is Dr. Chris Byles here to continue on this journey of fiber. All right, so we just thank you to our sponsor, Balanced Life Supplements. Fiber, that Fiber Balance actually is a great product. Another great product we use here. I'm not just saying that because they're my sponsor, but I really do use these things. I started increasing my fiber intake, really seriously getting focused on my fiber intake probably about 2 or 3 months ago. Started noticing the same thing. I'm not getting enough fiber in my diet. And I found this really good one that they sell over there and that they had an ad, Fiber Balance. And this is it right here, guys. Great product. It's tasteless, right? You scoop it in, it just goes right, dissolves right into the water, coffee, what have you. I've mixed it with this electrolytes before. No problem. You don't even notice, you don't even taste it. And then it helps you with the fiber, extra fiber in your diet. I would it only recommends 1 scoop a day. But if you're already on a good high fiber diet anyway, you really don't need it, right? So there's just another tool just to help if you do need it. One thing that I would say, I have another product that they also provide at Balanced Life Supplements, and that's one called the Balanced Super Greens. Now this right here, there's 2 ways you can do it. Now, Fiber Balance, if you need just want extra super fiber, boom. But if you need to just increase your veggies, this is great. This is a super green. It has a whole lot of vegetables in here. I don't have my glasses on right now, but it's got a whole lot of good stuff in there from wheatgrass, spirulina, a lot of different things. It's got a great taste too. So you never had the super greens that are all bitter. There's no bitterness with this, right? So I usually mix this with sometimes my electrolytes or something else. I just have it by itself. But this is really, really good. If you don't want to do the extra fiber with the Fiber Balance, right, I would recommend go over here and grab the Balance Super Greens. Very good taste, very good flavor, and I think you get like 2 servings of oh my goodness, vegetables in this thing a day. Okay, so with that being said, go to balancelifesubs.com and pick up your stuff. All right, guys. So let's continue on. We're going right back to this topic about fiber. I know it's not a sexy topic. It's not a sexy topic. Okay, I understand, right? But it is an important topic, right? Now we already talked about the different types of fiber. We talked about how many grams of fiber a day each one of us needs. Women, and men, 25 grams for the women, 38 for the men. We've already talked about that, but now we're going to talk about practical ways to increase your fiber, okay? Now, there's great ways to increase your fiber. You don't have to do all this stuff at once. It could be just a little bit of some stuff, but just go and look and just see how many grams you're getting a day when you take this, when you do this extra stuff. But you got oats. Oats are a great way to start your breakfast. You could do oats with some berries, some chia seeds, and some flax seeds, right? Something like that. But all those things, oats, berries, chia seeds, and flax seeds, are another way to increase your fiber. If you're doing yogurt, you could throw all that stuff within yogurt, right, to give some more bulk to that thing. Now you got a nice amount of protein, as well as your fiber, right? You're increasing your fiber, right? Again, fiber-rich breakfasts improve satiety and reduce low total daily caloric intake. Okay. Now, you want to try and choose whole foods over processed foods. Okay. Very important. The processed foods, probably some of the foods that are just really messing us up. It's just not good. We shouldn't have processed foods if we can help it. All right. If you're able to, try not to, or try to do some of your processing yourself so you know what's in it. One thing I would try to avoid if you're getting some foods, if there's food ingredients on the back of your label that you can't understand what it is, I would, unless you're going to sit there in the store and look it up and see what it is and if there's any side effects. I was that crazy with that. But anyway, unless you're going to do stuff like that, try not to get stuff that's going to have so many ingredients in it that you can't understand them, or it's like a book, right? Minimal ingredients as much as possible. But it's going to help with the processing, okay? Now, when you talk about your heart, the American Heart Association, right? They have a lot of recommendations for us as far as how we should live healthily. One of the recommendations for exercise is 150 minutes a week, right? But according to the American Heart Association, when it comes to your heart, right, higher whole grain intake is associated with reduced risk of heart disease and type 2, type 2 diabetes. So increasing your fiber is going to help with your type 2 diabetes as well as heart disease. Okay, so that's why the cereal industries promotes things like oatmeal and Cheerios. I think it was Honey Nut Cheerios is good for your heart. Increase your fiber, and you won't have to take a lot of these cereals or things like that, right? Again, because you want to try and be as low processed as much as possible, right? So that's what we want. So choose whole foods over processed foods. Another way you can increase your fiber is to add legumes, peanuts, those type of things, peanuts. Beans, lentils, chickpeas, those are all legume families, great in fiber. And for you vegetarians and vegans out there, they're also higher in protein, especially chickpeas, right? There's actually desserts you can make with chickpeas, which is crazy, but you can mix a little dessert, make a little dessert out of chickpeas. But anyway, you got beans, lentils, chickpeas, cheap filling, and they're fiber dense. Chickpeas, you can get a nice bag for really cheap. Cans, if you like cans, perfect. Either way, just try and make sure, again, in the cans, it just says chickpeas on there, nothing else, or just water. Try not to have as much processed or unannounceable names in the product. Okay, excuse me. You can have smarter snacking like popcorn, nuts, fruits, veggies with hummus. Small swaps matter. Okay. Now, I mentioned briefly to you the supplements, but they do matter. They help. But again, remember what supplements means anyway. It's especially if you're consistently under target. Now, if you're hitting your numbers, if you're doing all this stuff, right, you don't need it, right? You don't need a supplement, right? But everybody's not at that point yet. Now, if you get to the point that you don't need them, or if you're constantly hitting your numbers, then I am the first person to say, don't even go grab for, supplements unless you're short of something or you're needing something, right? Don't just grab it just to grab it. Because there are some vitamins that act negatively if you take too much of it. Okay, so certain things like vitamin A, especially if you're older, you want to be careful not doing a whole lot of vitamin A, and you're already getting the vitamin A in your fruits and vegetables, right? If you're already getting your vegetables, don't take a vitamin A supplement. Sometimes it does cause little extra issues in the body. But if you're not getting your green leafy vegetables and those type of things, like your beta carotene and those type of things that have vitamin A in it, you need a supplement. Okay. Just nothing too much once a day, but anything, and doctors will tell you as well. If you're short on things, supplements are great, but just, again, be careful where you get them from. Another thing is if you're already low on fiber, increase it gradually. Don't increase it all at once, right? And also drink plenty of water or stay hydrated, right? Don't forget about electrolyte talk from last week, okay? Now, here are some common mistakes that I see or we hear when we look at increasing fiber, right? Some of the mistakes they have is they increase it too fast. Big mistake. Don't do that. Not drinking enough water, okay? Be careful, especially if you're taking now this one is pretty good, no, not that one. Excuse me. This is pretty good from what I noticed, but there are some fibers out there like psyllium husk and some other ones. I can't think of the other ones. You got to really be careful about how much you're doing. Like, I really would not go over the recommended allowance with those things because some of those fibers can congeal and make it really hard now for have a problem. There's been cases where people have overdid it on the fiber because it's like, oh, it's working, let me do more. No, you don't want to do more. But really keep an eye on one scoop a day or one scoop when you're doing it is fine. Or like I said, just increase your vegetables with and you can get a super green as well. Okay. Another thing that, again, not drinking enough water, relying on only on supplements. Stop relying on only on supplements. For anybody who's hearing my voice, don't rely only on supplements. All right. Try to get everything you need from real food, real sources. But if you, again, don't just rely on supplements alone. Okay. And another common mistake is people ignore their gut adaptation. How's your gut adapting to what you're doing, the new fiber increases, right? Are you going a little bit too much? Are you feeling how are you feeling in your stomach? So don't ignore that, right? Because our guts needs time to adjust. They need time to adjust. They need time to, everything you're taking in. That's like why for those who have do extreme bodybuilding, I know some people that have done it. When they're at a bodybuilding, they come off of a show, their stomach's a little jacked up because they were eating a certain way, and introducing foods back to your diet that you weren't eating causes sometimes the stomach to mess up. Like, I can attest that for that myself. I ate differently because for a few years I lived out of the country. I lived in Kenya for a few years, and got adjusted to eating like that. When I came back, started eating this food, my stomach was tore up. Okay, I had to call off work when I first my job coming back from Kenya. I had to call off work because my stomach was tore up one day, and it's because I was not used to the food. So just give it time. Your gut needs time to adjust. Okay, don't, like I say, don't if you've been not eating the right amount of fiber, don't just start one day. Ease your way into it, right? That's what I want to say. 100%, you have to realize that fiber is not flashy, right? Nobody wants to talk about flashy. It's even weird to have using the bathroom, number 2 specifically. That's a weird topic to talk about. How do you talk about that, right? But it's very important, right? Because fiber is important and it's powerful, as we've seen, right? Another review from the BMJ talks about how higher fiber intake is associated with significant reductions in chronic disease risk and overall mortality. Now it's significant in reducing chronic disease risk and improving overall mortality just from increasing your fiber alone. So, you got to look at these things. You got to look at them, and you have to see, where am I at? If you want to be as healthy as you can be, right? And I think in this day and age, since we're not getting any younger, right, it's best to try and take care of your body as best it can. Because again, and remember our modern day medicine is being stretched thin because of how much our health has decreased over the years as a society. As people, right? It keeps decreasing. And we're finding ourselves constantly in the hospitals for a lot of things that I think we have the power to take care of them ourselves a lot of times, right? Just by preventing these things, creating good habits from Jump Street, right? Not eating a McDonald's meal for the entire day, right? Not eating good home cooked, clean meals, right? With good fiber and good, all these type of things that your body needs, all the nutrients your body needs. That's what we're missing with the introduction of preserved food and fast food and all these different things, and which are some of these restaurants, I don't know how they're still around, but anyway, with all these different things that's around, we've lost the thing that really matters, and that's our gut health. And now we're talking about it again. We're going back over it. We're saying, okay, our gut health is important. And if we would never have stopped doing these simple things, I don't think we would have came as far as gone down the road we've gone down. So we want better digestion, right? More stable energy. You want, I would hope, right? Unless I'm wrong, if you don't want these things, forgive me. I'm just saying. Right, I think we want to be or have our metabolic health improve. We want to have long-term longevity, right? But if we want these things, fiber is not optional; it's essential, right? It's essential. Do you want to support your gut? You gotta be careful. And for those of you who, I would look into it. For those of you who are actually in the care of a medical doctor, I would try to find some naturopathic doctors to talk to. Maybe they can help you with changing your diet and helping you do these things along the way. There's so many different platforms out there. Unfortunately, a lot of insurance doesn't cover naturopathic doctor, but if you can go and you can have like a little consultation with them. They don't charge a whole lot for consultations, and they can give you exactly some steps to take to help with your gut health. And I think that's very important. So that's all I got today, guys. That's all from me. That's all for your boy, Dr. Chris Byles. We're going to sign off from there. But we remember, we've been laying the foundation of overall health. Hydration, sleep, right? We just talked about sleep. We talked about protein. And now today we have finished this little demonstration or this introduction of it into health with fiber and how important fiber is. Okay. So if anything, you take away anything from this topic, remember to start small. Always start small. I'm talking to you. Start small. Be consistent and support your gut. Support your gut. That's all you got, right? So if you're having issues, go to your gut. Okay? All right. With that being said, you guys all have a great day. This will be posted on Friday. Remember, tune in every Friday after 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That's when the new one is going to be uploaded. If you would like to see my lovely face, right, go to YouTube. Go to YouTube. I'll send the link is actually in my description of my podcast. Go to YouTube, click on the link, go over there and look at the videos if you want to see. They're all uploaded there as well. If you want to be able to hear this topic again, or you can wait and just go right over there and listen to them. But those of you who don't go to YouTube, haven't seen me on YouTube, welcome. Thank you. I've seen it. Some of the people have been listening throughout the planet so far. So that's great. That's great. All praises to the Most High on that. But again, until next time, you guys all have a great day. And remember, a balanced life isn't given to you, it's achieved. Till next time.
Thanks for listening to A Balanced Life with your host, Dr. Chris Byles.
Take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit.
Keep moving forward. See you next time.